Welcome to Lex's World. So how do you talk to your kid about cannabis? Most of the guys who do shows like mine are typically quite young and aren't parents, much less parents of teenagers. So a lot of the videos on this question are done by anti-drug groups, which I thought was kind of lame. So I am a parent, however, and obviously I'm really into cannabis culture, so I think about the question of how to talk to your kids about weed a lot. We'll also do a how to talk to your parents about cannabis use episode down the line. My advice when it comes to approaching the weed topic with your kids is this. First, at what age? That really varies by kid, but usually when they first ask you if they're allowed to go to a party that isn't a birthday party, that probably means they're ready for this talk. For some kids, that's 12 years old. For others, it might be closer to 16, so quite a big variance. You just kinda gotta watch out for it. In the conversation, before you impart a warning about responsible use of cannabis, you yourself must understand that the weed conversation is not a standalone talk. You need to have an overall talk with your kids about drugs and about what constitutes a drug. Pharmaceuticals, caffeine, cigarettes, alcohol, weed, all drugs. They just all have different effects, risks, and implications, especially if you overuse any of those. Too many parents draw strange lines in the sand on attitude between legal and street drugs. The last 20 years of research in the field of drug use and addiction have taught us that these lines in the sand are totally arbitrary. Some nearly unregulated substances are very bad for you, while some totally illegal drugs, like magic mushrooms, are surprisingly harmless, if a little bit off-putting for their effects. Anyway, what should you actually say about weed specifically? Now obviously my ideal preference to my kids, and most parents' preference, is that their kids don't do any drugs at all whatsoever until they hit the age of majority, weed included. But much like with the birds and the bees conversation, there's some realistic and unrealistic boundaries here. It's probably unrealistic to expect total abstinence in the fields of sex, alcohol, and cannabis. However, there's good limitations and good things to expect. For example, if your high school age kid smokes weed or drinks at a house party once in a while, that's one thing. It certainly doesn't warrant a punishment as far as I can see. If they're smoking up weed or cigarettes or whatever between classes at school, that's an example of a problem and not acceptable use. So that's got to be dealt with. That's the line the conversation with your kid should take, and beyond that, simply apply your own morals and values. If you want a little more info on this topic, I'll throw a link in the description to an old episode I did called What's a Reasonable Age to Start Smoking Weed, which is very much a related strain of thought. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'll see you next time.